All right, hello, future Azure architects. If you're staring down the AZ305 exam, wondering where to even begin, you have come to the right place. Look, today isn't just about cramming facts. We're stepping into the training ground, into the gauntlet, to really forge that special mindset you need to be a solutions architect. So let's just dive right in. First things first, you gotta know your enemy, right? The AZ305 is broken into a few big areas, but there's one that's an absolute monster. It's Design Infrastructure Solutions. Just look at it. It's the heavyweight champion, making up a whopping 30 to 35% of your entire score. So yeah, it's pretty simple. You've got to nail this part to pass. So, to conquer that beast, we put together what we're calling the Architect's Gauntlet. This is your quest. The goal here is to fundamentally shift how you think. You're moving away from the how-to of an administrator, clicking the buttons, running the scripts, and into the why and when of an architect. It's all about making tough decisions and being able to defend the trade-offs you made.
And that brings us to our very first challenge, the compute conundrum. Think about it. Every single solution you build needs a brain, right? A place where the code actually runs. This is the absolute foundation, and picking the right compute service is one of your biggest, most important architectural decisions right out of the gate.
So let's play this out with a classic scenario, the kind of thing you will definitely see. A stakeholder comes to you. They've got this older app, and they just want to move it to Azure as is. A classic lift and shift. Now here's the catch. They tell you they need total control over the environment, but they absolutely hate patching and updating servers. So what do? Where do you even start?
And boom, right there, that's your first huge decision point. Infrastructure as a service, IaaS, versus platform as a service, or PaaS. With an Azure virtual machine, you are the digital landlord. You get total flexibility, which is great, but you're on the hook for everything from the operating system on up. On the other hand, with something like Azure App Service, a PaaS service, you basically just show up with your code, and Azure handles all that messy underlying stuff. So for our stakeholder who hates patching, PaaS sounds perfect, right? But can their old, clunky legacy app even run there? That is the architect's dilemma.
Okay, but let's get a little more modern here, because the conversation isn't just about VMs anymore. What if your app is already packaged up in these neat little boxes called containers? Containers are awesome because they let you run your application consistently everywhere, whether that's on your laptop or in a massive cloud data center.
But here's the thing, just saying containers isn't enough. You have options. If you need the ultimate power tool, something to orchestrate a massive, complex system, you're looking at Azure Kubernetes Service, or AKS. But if you're building with microservices and want that power without all the complexity, Azure Container Apps is the new sweet spot. And you know what? If you just have a simple web app in a container and want the easiest possible way to run it, you can do that on App Service too. You see the pattern here? It's always about matching the tool to the actual problem you're trying to solve.
We can take this even one step further though. What if you don't want to think about servers or containers? Well, welcome to the magic of serverless and Azure Functions. This is really the peak of letting the cloud do all the heavy lifting for you. You just write a little snippet of code that runs when something happens, an event. The ultimate, just run my code and don't bother me with the details option.
And get this, even in this no servers world of serverless, you still have to make architectural trade-offs. With the consumption plan, you literally pay pennies for only when your code runs. It scales all the way down to zero, so it costs you nothing if it's not being used. The catch? It can have a cold start, a tiny delay the first time it runs after a while. For apps that have to be ready instantly, you choose the premium plan. Yeah, you pay more, but you get awesome features like VNet integration and, crucially, no cold starts.
Okay, challenge number 2. You've picked your compute, things are running, but now you've got a new problem. A good problem, but still a problem. Your app is a hit. You need to handle way more traffic, but the finance department is watching that cloud bill like a hawk. So how do you get bigger without going broke? Well, if you went the virtual machine route, your secret weapon is something called Virtual Machine Scale Sets, or VMSS. The best way to think about it is like a digital accordion. As demand, the music, gets louder, the accordion expands and automatically adds more VMs. When things quiet down, it contracts, saving you money. That elasticity is everything in the IaaS world.
And the cost game gets even deeper. You don't just have to pay the sticker price. If your workload is spiky and unpredictable, sure, pay as you go makes sense. But if you have a service that's always on, you can commit to a 1 or 3 year reserved instance and save a ton of money, like up to 72%. And if you have a workload that can be interrupted, you can take a gamble on spot VMs and get absolutely insane savings, maybe up to 90%. A good architect knows how to pull these different levers to crush the cost.
Now, if you went with PaaS, the idea is similar, but the name is different. You don't scale your web app, you scale the app service plan that it runs on. The plan is basically the horsepower you're renting from Microsoft. A bigger plan means more power, more features, and yeah, a bigger bill. So remember this, you scale the plan, not the app. That's what controls your performance and your cost.
All right, you've made it to the final challenge. We've got our compute services. We know how to scale them, but right now they're all just a bunch of isolated islands. The last part of the gauntlet is the networking labyrinth, connecting all these dots into a secure and efficient system that actually works together.
For just about any serious enterprise setup, the pattern you need to know is the hub and spoke model. It's basically city planning for your cloud network. You create a central hub network. Think of it as your downtown, and that's where you put all your shared services, like a central firewall. Then all your different applications live in their own spoke networks, which all connect back to that hub. It's an amazing way to centralize security and prevent total network chaos.
So how do we get traffic to these apps? With a load balancer. But of course, Azure has a few of them, and knowing which one to pick is a classic exam question. This slide right here, this is your cheat code. If a question mentions global users and performance, your brain should immediately scream Azure front door. If it's about regional web traffic and needs fancy features like SSL offloading, that's application gateway. And for just about any other basic internal traffic, you'll use the standard Azure load balancer. Know these three and you're golden.
And just like that, you've done it. You've survived the gauntlet. You've wrestled with the big infrastructure decisions an architect makes every single day. You've picked compute, you've planned for scale, and you've designed a network. So let's wrap this all up and pack your architect's toolkit. First and foremost, you need to burn this into your brain. As engineers, we love complexity, right? We love cool, new, complicated tech. But a great architect fights that temptation. The best design is always the simplest one that actually solves the business problem. Seriously, don't build a spaceship when a bicycle will get them where they need to go.
And here are the rules of thumb to live by. Always start with PaaS unless you have an amazing reason to use IaaS. Always design for failure, assume things are going to break. Treat cost like a real requirement, not something you think about later. Security and governance, that's day 0 stuff, not day 100. And finally, be ready to justify every single decision you make with the trade-off it involves.
Look, you might have come here just looking for some answers for an exam, but hopefully you're leaving with something more, the fundamental mindset of a cloud architect. You now have the map of the services and the compass to make the right decisions. So the only real question left is, what will you design? Good luck out there.